everybody. Welcome to episode 21 of Just One More Podcast. I am Jeff from Just One More Level, and for another week, we've got John from MyBrainOnGames.com. How you doing, John?
I am doing good.
So, in a couple different ways, the last week was eventful. As you pointed out earlier today, we kind of yin-yanged the previous couple of weeks in regards to us playing Star Ocean. I guess for just a date stamping thing, this is December 4th, 2022, the first recording of the podcast in December. I over the last week didn't play a whole lot of I didn't play a whole lot of Star Ocean. I played a lot of Vampire Survivors, but I didn't play a lot of Star Ocean. Whereas for you, I think you said 10 hours?
Yeah, I managed to get 10 hours of Star Ocean in the last week.
So, based on where we were at last, for the last recording, we both were introduced to Malkia, the
Trathen.
The Trathen. We also were at Nilbeth. We went through the Ancient Coil, got the Levitas ore, but we stopped right before you teleported back to Asarius Castle, the royal capital. So, for the most part, there's some like behind the scenes stuff that is jeopardizing the life of the royal family. Letitia and the king were kidnapped. Who can't. As far as being done, not playing the game for about a week, I'm misplacing names. Who was going to take over the kingdom?
The king's brother, Duke Lambert?
Was it Lambert or was it?
Yeah, because Lambert and Theo, Theo was involved in it. He kind of sold Leticia out, sold the rest of them out. Duke Lambert was going to be the one taking power, and then Neon, he was kind of like in the hands of the Vale Empire, in the hands of the Virians.
Yeah.
But yeah, Malkia, Malkia teleported the group, teleported them into the jail cells, the dungeons underneath the city, underneath the castle, and they freed Albert. They started on their merry way, and they came across Theo, and Theo kind of, he kind of said, hey, this maybe wasn't the best decision for me, and I like Albert in this like stretch, because he's really like stepping up. He's really like, with Leticia not there, he's needing to go rescue Leticia. The party gets there, and he kind of lays out, here's everything that happened, here's why this is happening, here's what's going on, like, follow me, we're going to get this stuff taken care of.
Yeah. Just the importance of the fact that Leticia is kidnapped.
Set to be executed.
And if I remember, I don't know if we talked about it on the last episode, but Elena was communicating to Raymond until an EMP basically shut her down.
Yeah, and she's up there in the city square on the chopping block with Leticia, the king.
Yeah. So, after teleporting back, did you have any difficulties like traversing that dungeon area? Because I kind of felt like there were portions that I would go through, and somehow I would kind of get turned around, and like there's at least from what I remember, it didn't seem like there was a lot of like landmarks in the dungeon.
Yeah, I mean,
A
it's a lot
lot
of
of it looked
narrow
kind of the same.
hallways, and it's really dark in there too. Like, I didn't know if it was just because I was playing on a new TV and my maybe brightness settings weren't set up correctly, or if it's just because it's an OLED screen, but I mean, it was dark in there.
Yeah. There was one time I was like, what is attacking me? I have no idea what is attacking me. Like there's no enemies around. I'm taking damage. I don't get it. And I was apparently too close to a spike wall. Um,
Oh, yeah.
because there was a treasure chest nearby, and I opened the treasure chest, and then I just kind of turned around and started to uh, make my way back, and I guess I ran across the wall, and I was getting attacked, and so I stopped because like what's attacking me? Didn't see anything. So I ended up moving closer, or like after I walked away from the wall, I walked a little bit closer, thinking that maybe there was a trap or something that I set off. Nope, it was just a spike wall that was right in front of me that I couldn't tell was a spiked wall. So yeah, it was just a very dark area, which I mean, I guess it is a dungeon and it is underground, but as far as like traversing, it was a little tedious. Um, but
Yeah, I mean, and
uh,
Albert slaps some sense into Theo. They make it to the
yeah,
top. They say,
yeah,
okay, they kind of get a game plan ready for saving the day from preventing the executions. And then
um,
Theo, for his part, he just walks right out there and starts doing it basically. The
yeah,
party's up high above, figuring out, well, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna do this? And then, oh, there's Theo.
yeah. And I thought kind of the lead up to that was a little silly. I feel like for the for what it is, um, the fact that nobody really looked at the second floor balcony area for like what 4 or 5 very brightly, or I guess not very brightly, but very stand out. Like they look they don't look like normal people. So the fact that they were just kind of on the balcony, there wasn't even really any walls to hide behind. They were just kind of up there that nobody noticed. Albert
Well,
and
well, I mean,
Raymond and
who's gonna notice them? Do they have like snipers posted places? They don't have
well,
guns.
for the the stuff going on, like well, maybe I'm thinking of a little bit later on with the wedding, but uh, so yeah, like all sorts of stuff. It definitely starts to ramp up as far as just all the action going on.
Yeah. I mean, from this point, like basically getting out of the prison and um, recapturing Ascendros. This is some intense stuff. Like really
Yeah,
did start picking up, and I think that's part of the reason why I was like, okay, able to put 10 hours into the game, relatively easily this past week.
yeah. Um, so it was. I think we're both kind of on the same page. I liked the development of Albert. Um, I don't know if I kept wondering why the party uh like started to maybe not trust Theo, but for what Theo did, I feel like the party was a little too quick to be like,
I mean, at that point,
all
I think
right,
they're taking Albert's word for it. Albert and Theo and Leticia, they've known each other all a very, very long time. So, it's like, okay, well, if Albert has trust in Theo, we will trust Theo. And even
yeah,
then, like the conversations are like, hey, you're not off the hook for this. You're still going to get punished. But, right
yeah,
now we need you and you're willing to help.
yeah. Um, and well, in my notes, I see a small little thing that Chloe essentially tells the party that Theo isn't lying, which uh,
Yeah, I think Ray at that point is just like, well, you know, Chloe's never misjudged a character before, misjudged a person.
yeah. And as a matter of fact, had Raymond just listened to Chloe at the beginning, we wouldn't even have the game. So, because she called it, she was like, "I feel something's off." I feel like we're being followed or something. I can't remember what the beginning was, but then Raymond was just like, oh yeah, you worry about all kinds of stuff, and then the Edis gets attacked, and then they have to escape, and they find themselves on Astor 4. Um, so
Yeah, I mean
let's see.
they break up the execution.
Yeah,
Nina flies down with the Duma. She reactivates Elena post haste, and then frees Leticia and their father. And then big battles commence. I didn't.
and
It took me a minute to realize that I can just end this battle whenever I want just by going over
yeah,
there.
yeah,
I think I'd
yeah.
done like 3 or 4 waves of enemies, been like, okay, this is awesome. This is a tough battle, and then just lots of enemies. And then at some point I
Yeah,
realized, can I just? Is there an end to this? And then realized, oh, there's something over there on the map. Let me just go there.
yeah. I was getting a little bit of the Last Remnant vibes, um, because there's portions in the Last Remnant. I don't know if you played the Last Remnant,
No,
um,
on the to-do
but
list, on the backlog.
the ever growing backlog of games. Um, but in that game, it transitions to battle scenes, and you've got your party taking on large groups of enemies, and essentially, like, as certain battles go on, more enemies kind of like come in, and for the most part, with that section, I was getting that vibe that I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of cool. There's just wave after wave after wave. But I think I don't know when I noticed, but I was just like, oh, what's over there? And then I just kind of ran in that direction, and then it moved the story forward. I was like, oh, I wonder if I could have farmed some experience back there, because if I just needed to go to this area to end this fight to move the story forward, I probably could have just mowed through. I mean, I wasn't having any difficulties with the enemies that were showing up. I wasn't really paying too much attention on if or what experience I was getting. Um, but I kind of figured that if I was getting experience, had I not gone over there, I might have been able to farm out some levels and get a bunch of experience to cash in on like the skill tree or powering up skills and stuff. But um,
Yeah, it was interesting hearing Lambert, Neon, before they were set to execute the king and the princess and Elena. Explain their reasoning, basically saying, hey, the
yeah,
royal family has shirked their duties. Hilgar's disease has run rampant, and they're wanting to wage war. Um,
they
especially
fired the
whenever,
first shot.
yeah, especially whenever the Virians show up and you're introduced to all of them properly. I think at this point, basically know them by name, and then they whisk Neon away and leave Lambert to suffer his fate with
Yeah,
the royal family's like, oh,
yeah.
sucks to be you, Lambert.
And he's trying to like reach up to the sky, trying to hope that somebody's gonna come down and grab him, or he's gonna teleport up there or something, and that doesn't happen.
It was interesting afterwards, though, to see. Well, actually, that may have worked in their favor because Leticia's proposal for them, because regardless of their victory there, they're still outgunned by the Vale Empire and the Virians.
Yeah,
But her proposal to basically take Neon up on his offer, one that he provided whenever she was in capture, is basically, hey, marry the prince of the Vale Empire and bring the two kingdoms together. She thought, well, let's use this as a distraction so we can get more time to finish the Folga and then
yeah.
gain the upper hand in the military might.
Well, and that's kind of another. I think in the last episode we referenced it, or at least you brought it up that when push comes to shove, like Leticia, she steps up as a pretty good strategist of sorts.
Yeah, yeah, and the king
Um,
mentions it at some point during all this and saying like, hey, I'm old and
yeah,
I can
yeah,
already, I can see Leticia is ready for the job. Once this is all settled, I'm basically just going to abdicate the throne and let her take over. She's
yeah.
got it.
Because yeah, like she she's very matter of fact with a lot of her decisions, but over the development of like the last several hours of the game, like she really steps up and like with this whole wedding thing, like at no point does she give any type of like emotional uh like there's no emotional connection to it. It's just we're gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. You guys get the Folga ready. You guys get uh, you know it essentially we with this wedding we will just it's just a decoy. This is like
Yeah,
uh,
and I loved her plan of using Lambert. Basically, hey, let's bring Lambert, put him front and center, because that's really going to throw the Vale Empire and the Virians off, because he was the one who was leading the coup.
yeah
And so they're going to see him as a guest of honor. They're going to think, well, wait a minute, maybe our faction within the empire, within the kingdom, is still strong. Maybe this is all legit.
yeah
We have nothing to suspect, no suspicion.
yeah
So I thought that
and
I thought that was really interesting, really
yeah
clever.
um, like for the most part I don't really use Letitia in my main party, um, but I really enjoy her character. Um, that's I think as far as the party that I usually lean on is Raymond, uh, Midas, Nina, and then I did cycle in Malkia because I liked the she's got a fairly diverse um, skill set of like up close, but also a lot of like magic stuff that she can uh, uh, do as well. So I feel like those four are um, my main party. Obviously, there's going to be more characters that we get access to as we play the game, but as of right now, like those are the four that I typically lean on. Um,
Yeah, with that's kind of the same with mine. It's Ray. I like Nina, and there's the healer. I like having Midas in there just so I get someone with semiomancy, and then I just basically shuffle that four slot. With
yeah,
the semiomancing characters, am I correct in assuming like they're chain combos that you can't chain most semiomancy spells together?
it seems that that's the case because I got
So it's
whenever
so
I
it's
take
basically
over,
like if you have Midas, you have like up to six spells. You've got your X, Y, and B, and then you've got your hold version of those.
yeah,
Okay.
because like I've tried to make chains, and whenever I take over Midas, I can never get those
Yeah.
chain, and I don't know if it's just a timing thing or what,
Yeah, I haven't looked
but
into it. I figured that was the case because same thing. It's like, okay, well, let me like put two fireballs together and see what happens. And like, well, he's only ever well, I guess that's not a good example because he'd just be casting another one. I think I did a fireball and something different, and it's like, well, he's just casting fireballs, so I guess I can't
yeah,
chain these.
and that was kind of I remember when like I almost 97% play as Ray whenever in combat. Just very
Yeah,
straightforward, just sword wielding, you know, no nothing real fancy about him. But occasionally, like I will switch over to other characters. And I remember the first time I switched over to Midas, and like I was trying to use the spells and stuff. I was like, have I have I not set up his combos yet? Have I not like he's gotta have more than three spells, or he's gotta have more than four spells. Like I, I've gone through the skill tree. I've unlocked things. I'm pretty sure I powered up some of his stuff, and then sure enough, like I go into the what the combo chain section of the character,
yeah, the chain
and I'm like
combos.
I was like I've got all sorts of stuff equipped, but all I'm ever seeing is just the quick spell stuff that I put at the beginning of the chain. So um, because like essentially what I've tried to do with all the characters is like that first attack is usually fast, just a quick ability to kind of get them in there. Some provide like some kind of like stun or a slow or some kind of like debuff or whatever, and then uh, the heavier, harder hitting stuff is either in the 2 and the 3 slots, and then things that just take a long time to cast or get off, I have as the hold options. Um, so yeah, whenever I would go to Midas, I'm like, I don't understand why these other spells are not going through.
Yeah, I've set mine up, pretty similar on the offensive front, but then the difference for me is those hold buttons. I've set those to the abilities, um, just to kind of mix things up. As, like you said, play
Yeah,
mostly as Ray, but still use some of those abilities to like boost everyone's guts or some of the other ones that don't really know what they do. I have to go back and look and
yeah,
see.
yeah. That's it. There's I feel like there's an okay amount of skills and abilities and stuff um, for the characters, but I also kind of feel like there could be more like diversity to them. Like
Uh,
with Ray, like
yeah.
Ray's skills are very straightforward, very simple. Um, there's not much to that. Whenever I switch over to Nina, I don't I I have I guess it's kind of a similar thing with Midas is
I
just
mean, Nina's very non-offensive. Like
yeah,
going through her skill tree, there's like very few offensive abilities. There's a lot of or attacks. It's all a lot
yeah,
of defensive stuff. I'm going to hide. I'm going to boost my defense, or there's like one like super risky one that is a big trade-off for her magic into attack or something. But yeah, I mean, she's so much focused on just being a support character.
yeah. So like whenever I switch over to her, I'm like I hope this stuff is working, um, because I there's not. I mean, granted, as far as like combat goes, like combat is so colorful and in your face, and just so much stuff is going on, um, that sometimes it's hard to really grasp what Nina's abilities are doing. So I usually don't really play around as her very often.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean, even whenever I go down, I don't even like switch characters to use an item to revive me. I will just wait for Nina to do it.
yeah, and she's usually pretty good at um,
Yeah, and part of it
being
is
that
just
support character.
to check to make sure. Okay, you are going to revive me, right? Like, how long is this going to
Yeah,
take? Like,
yeah,
okay, is this a couple
yeah,
seconds? Is this 10 seconds? Am I waiting like half a minute?
yeah. Um, so that's
But
let's
yeah, so they
see, but
they convene with the opposite side. They meet with the Vale delegation, and that scene kind of it was interesting because that was the first time we got to see the Prince of the Vale Empire. I think Boldor, but it was kind of
yeah,
strange for me because an attempted coup was just made, and tensions have got to be running high between the two sides. But here they're having a
yeah,
peaceful face to face, and I guess it's just everybody putting on a brave face and again, kind of going to the heart of, well, the Vale Empire believes that the actions of the kingdom are sincere. We're going to take you at face value. We're going to have a big celebration, a big marriage. We're going to unite the two.
yeah. Which that kind of again kind of goes back to just the iffiness that I've felt when with just kind of how quickly the feelings towards like Theo had shifted, because like
Yeah,
I get it's like, okay, like Chloe says that you're not lying, Albert says that we can trust you, but you did just lead or help lead this coup attempt. Like
yeah. And I
you
mean,
you had
in his defense, he even said, like, down in the prison, there's a reason, like, I had sent you and Leticia away because I was hoping you guys would be someplace far away and it wouldn't come to us actually having to execute Leticia. Now my uncle, the king, I guess there's no excuse
yeah,
for that. See ya, but
yeah. So there's with that stuff, but
and
um
so I mean, in between, after that scene, they're hoping they have like 10 days for the wedding. It gets cut short.
Yeah,
It's going to be in 7
yeah.
days. Not a lot of interesting stuff happened in that time, but one
No,
thing
no, my God,
yeah,
no.
it was just kind of like a lot of filler. Like, hey, let's go to Baldar. Let's see if there's anything going on.
And
But the one
yeah,
thing that I think was very interesting, kind of tied into Theo's actions, was Ray going down and interviewing Lambert to see, if we can get any information about the Virians, or what's going on. He basically just lays out, here's why I did what I did. Like, they showed some technology, and it was like, we have no chance. Like, we have to surrender.
yeah,
So I mean, even with Lambert and in part Theo, because that's where Theo's decision came from, was Lambert. It's like, hey, we're doing what we thought was the best for the kingdom.
which, um, just kind of with the developments of everything going on, like even Elena has shifted to like being full support, like saying, yes, we need, uh, in order for the kingdom to have any chance at survival, um, we have to support them with technology.
Yeah, I'm gonna work
Um,
24 hours a day helping to build the Folga, help to get this job done.
yeah, because I think it's clear at this point that this planet has already been compromised in regards to the what
The Virians,
the underdeveloped planetary act, or the UP3
UP3,
or what.
yeah,
Yeah. So now that it's pretty clear that it's already been compromised, Elena's like, yeah, let's go all in. Let's like I fully support this. Um, so, but during kind of during that time, well, I guess not during that time. I think it was after the wedding and stuff. But as like the days were dwindling down, getting down to the wedding, um, I part of me was like, I mean, this is probably how this would actually happen. You've got 7 days. Everyone's hyper focused on this one task. There's not going to be a lot of adventuring going on. You're not going to be able to really go and do anything. So I was like, it makes sense. But from a gameplay perspective, I was like, man, I really wish there was something I could actually do
yeah. I
instead
mean,
of,
that's why it seems like they just keep coming up with stuff. So okay, Ray, Elena, Albert, uh, you aren't tech savants. You're not really going to help with the development of the Folga, but we do have some tasks for you. Captain Bertrand is saying, hey, go check out or go check out Baldar. Go
yeah,
check, and then Ray comes up. I don't know if Ray comes up with it or Bertrand in conversations. Like, well, I'm going to go interrogate, Lambert. The game's feeding
yeah,
you some stuff to do while that stuff takes place.
yeah,
But, the morning of the wedding, the Folga's not done. So Albert, Ray, uh, and Theo, it's like, well, it doesn't matter if the Folga's not done. We're still going to rescue the princess. And so
yeah.
they sneak into Baldar the night before, actual stealth mission to get into the basilica.
Yep, and try to, which,
Sneak in
I'm,
undetected, get a good spot for the morning's reception, the morning's wedding.
I will say that I'm glad that the game didn't have like a long drawn out stealth mission, because the game's not. I mean, the game doesn't control badly, but it's not a stealth game. It's not an espionage game. We're not Solid Snake trying to avoid getting captured or anything. We've got this thing that straps to our back and zooms us around.
Yeah,
Um,
we're not inconspicuous here, guys.
yeah. So, for me, I'm glad that that whole like stealth mission was
Very
fairly
short.
short. So I was happy about that.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess this is kind of what I was referencing earlier in this episode, was just you've got this, they basically stake out an area for them to keep an eye on the wedding, be close enough to the wedding, see what's going on, but not be in the middle of everything until they need to be. Um, but it's just a little. You've got this very high profile wedding going on, and you've got these random people up in this little balcony area that's completely unguarded.
Yeah,
That
you've
has
got all this security outside, but no one's. I guess you've got all this security outside doing sweeps, but no one's checking inside doing sweep. And I guess that's just because they're
yeah
so confident in their abilities of those security, the soldiers outside.
yeah.
No one's getting past them.
So I was like, while they're up there talking and stuff, I was just thinking, I was like, nobody's gonna walk up here, like not even a random person. Like you've got this, like I would imagine with
They're not
the
even hiding behind anything. They're just in a corner.
yeah, like they are over, like they're in a balcony that doesn't have any real walls to it, um, and it's like they have direct line of sight with where the wedding is taking place, in the basilica. So it's just, while this whole thing was going on, I'm just like, this just seems like, now granted, it is a very rushed wedding, so maybe that's another part of this thing that I'm failing to realize, is that you know this wasn't a wedding that was planned out over months and months. This was literally thrown together in 7 days.
Yeah,
So maybe that plays into why the security wasn't uh, as well thought out to keep an eye on any of the windows or the balconies inside the building that the wedding was taking place. So
yeah.
maybe
Not much to say at
maybe
this point, but Ray gets
yeah.
a communication from Marielle, who claims to have been on board the Astoria, the Federation ship that shot down the Aegis. He just gets
And
upset and hangs
hangs
up
up.
on her. And then
Yeah,
the rest of the night with the boys, he's just I think Albert senses, hey, something's wrong with you. You've got our support.
yeah.
But
Um,
then the next morning, the wedding, big pomp and circumstance. And okay, I was wrong earlier. Boldor is the emperor. This was the first
oh,
time we
okay.
actually see him. The prince is Gerard,
Oh
who
yeah,
we
that's
saw
right. Yeah.
previously. And the guys are watching the ceremony on the second floor balcony. And at some point, the Virians like prepare some Duma looking like objects, almost as like wedding gifts or like crowns, something wedding ring like.
Yeah.
And Duma refers to those as scorpions. There's that has not been elaborated upon, at least up till where I'm playing at.
Yeah.
Just
Some
because,
some new tech.
yeah, some sort of other Duma variants. And no explanation was provided at that time because all of a sudden the Folga comes swooping
Yeah.
in. They made them.
Yeah.
They finished them in time.
That's while like I don't know like size comparisons and stuff, but I was like, man, this is just so absurd, having the Folga flying around inside this building.
Yeah, it
Um,
was like that whole cutscene, that like minute or 2 minute cutscene. It was euphoric. Like it was just like pump your fist in the sky, like hell yeah. And it's
it's
got this like
working.
it's got this like bad modern Sonic the Hedgehog soundtrack playing behind. It's like yes,
Yeah. As far as crashing wedding scenes and stuff, Letitia got to have kind of somewhat sort of a Yuna moment with getting saved with the um, I mean there's no summoning involved, so that kind of, it's not exactly like Yuna uh, crashing her wedding in Final Fantasy X, um, but it was very much like, all right, we are here, finally we're getting to see the Folga in action, getting to show the Veil Empire, or not the yeah, the Veil, yeah, Veil Empire, and I think the Virians were at the wedding,
yep, yeah.
getting
Viren's were there.
getting to getting to show them that, hey, you're not the only ones who have technology on your side. We've got some toys of our own.
Yeah, we got surprises up our sleeves. And
So
yeah, the
yeah, like
euphoria continued into the battles that took place afterwards.
yeah,
Beforehand, it was kind of a revelation to me, but Prince Gerard of the Vale Empire, he seems like actually a legitimately good guy. Like
yeah,
whenever the folks on the, Leticia, Ray, Albert, whenever they were dropped off from the Folga, getting ready to commence battle with the Virians and the Vale Empire, Prince Gerard, he was talking to them, and he was, hey Leticia, um, you've got all these friends and allies that came to your rescue. You know, he's kind of having a pity party for himself,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it really shows.
yeah,
Okay, well, he's not the one. He's just mixed up in this because he is who he is. It's the Virians pulling the strings. It's maybe even his father pulling the strings. And they eventually come in, and some of them whisk him away to safety. Even though he doesn't want their support, it seems like. And then you guys
yeah.
fight. A couple of the Virians. I think, Gaston and Volange.
Yep. And again, as with most combat in Star Ocean so far, I didn't have any issues with taking them on.
Yeah,
They had a couple mechanics about them that uh, didn't really pose a challenge, but kind of created a little bit of a wrinkle. But yeah, didn't have any real challenge
yeah.
taking them
I mean,
down.
I'm zooming around with the VA abilities, then knocking some combos out, zooming with the VA. Just keep it going.
Yeah, I think there was a brief moment where I accidentally activated the Eastiary cage,
Yeah,
so I couldn't like dash around. I was like, oh crap, what's going on? What happened? Like why can I not? I've got the cage activated. Since that's activated, I can't do the dashes and stuff. So for the
yeah,
most part, when I shut that off, I didn't have any issues after that.
yeah. So I mean, they defeat Gaston and Volange. They've got him down. They would have them in custody if not for Marielle teleporting
Yeah,
down right then, kind of surprising everyone.
and I think when she showed up, she said something like she was there to arrest them or something, or she was because she had her weapon drawn,
Yeah,
um, and so, but then I think Ray uh, said something that
he
happened,
he
and Ray
basically
ended up,
he basically told her, "Hey, you cool it right now. You know,
yeah,
we're not
this is
talking
not
about
your
this right
fight.
now." Yeah, yeah, because I think that one of the Virians was about to shoot their gun, and I think she shot hers and saved him. Saved whoever the Virians were targeting, because then that blew their gun away. And then Neon comes into the scene, and he's acting like crazy.
Yeah, like
He's crazy just because he thought he had this all in the bag, and then the kingdom shows up with this secret weapon. But he grabs that Virion
foiling his
gun
plans.
and he fires at the king, and Theo actually jumps in front of him to save him, and oh no no
Yeah,
no no, he was
no,
firing at
no,
Theo, and the king jumped in front of him. Because yeah,
yeah.
Theo was like, why would you do this? Like I betrayed you, and you still jumped in front to save me.
Because yeah, I've got a note a little bit later on that essentially like the king is about to die again.
Yeah,
Because I think this was like the second or third time that
yeah. At least the second, yeah, third time, yeah. Because first time was escaping from Baldar. Second time would have
yeah,
been the execution. Then this time,
yeah, just
and
that it really sucks to be king.
yeah, and this is a time whenever Ray takes charge of the situation with Marielle and says, before they really even have a chance to discuss anything or do anything, he's basically like, hey, you guys have the technology up there in your Federation ship to heal the king, beam him up. And she starts talking. I
Yeah,
think she mentioned stuff about like the UP3, and he's like, hey, what's done is done. Beam him
yeah,
up.
we are past that point. As you can see, this planet is already compromised. There is no going back. This planet is already dealing with the fact that the Varians are here. They're supplying technology to the Vale Empire. That's done. There is no we tried to not have technology. We tried to play this as a underdeveloped world. They didn't allow that to happen. We're fighting fire with fire at this point. Um, but it was kind of in with Ray's interactions with Marielle. It was kind of the first, well, maybe the second time uh, with Ray as a character where I was like, all right, this is like you're you do have it in you to be, you know, Captain Raymond. Um, because like when I think of Captain, I think of like with Star Trek, you've got Captain Picard, you've got Captain Kirk, you've got Captain Janeway, you've got these very like they're very quick at making decisions, getting things to happen. Whether making
Oh,
the
I
decision of going to the front line or um, just very confident in their choices. And with this interaction with Marielle, I got a little bit of that vibe from Raymond. It was like, okay, you are putting your foot down and you are saying this has to happen.
well, as somebody who's watching The Next Generation right now, I would disagree with that sentiment. I would
Well,
say Captain Picard is not one to just rush to a decision. He
well,
takes advice, he takes counsel from his whole crew, he forms
no,
a consensus, and whenever the time comes, he'll make a decision himself. But he's not just like, this is what we're doing.
okay, so I guess not like rush to a decision, but like as far as like being the central force, um, guiding a team and making the tough decisions when those decisions or when those situations arise. Like this was the first time with, or like I said, maybe the second time. I think the first time may have been uh, when. Well, no, actually, I think this might actually be the first time where Raymond really like stepped up into a leadership role and was like, we're not talking about this. This is not a discussion. This is not a negotiation. You are going to get the king up to your ship. You're going to save the king, and that's all there is to it. Um,
Yeah, I
but
mean, leadership or just forcefulness. You could say he's
I
been
mean,
a leader since he landed on the planet because he's had a goal in mind. Like, okay, I need to get to Chloe. I need to get to Elena. Oh, I found these people. Like, you're going to help me. You're going to help me. We're going to work through this together. But this is my goal.
yeah,
Whereas now, I mean, yeah, he's just being like forceful, saying, hey, you're going to do this. We'll talk about things later. And
yeah,
the talking about things later is, I think, at least to this point, I have not progressed too far past what's coming up, but it's kind of at least seems like, okay, it's kind of like the cooling down. Like, still a lot of tons of information coming in, but,
oh yeah,
um,
lots.
you know,
We
back at the castle, the king is back. He's healed, he's convalescing, he's getting better. But I thought this was, again, very interesting. He says that, well, while I was up there, I see what you're talking, like where you guys come from. Like, you guys could just come down here, set foot, and take over the whole world in a day. And so he says, I've got, newfound sympathy for Lambert. Like, if I saw what he says he saw, I probably would have made the decision quicker than he did. Like, so
yeah,
I have full sympathy for Lambert and his actions. And plus, he's my
yeah.
brother.
And I mean, when you look at it, like it is very much a everything dealing with space for anybody on the on Astor 4, you know, it's so you would have to imagine that it's just such an I don't really know how to explain it, but just like such an overwhelming feeling of like, oh, there's I guess it's just
Just
the
overwhelming
realization.
confusion. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about? You come from the stars. That doesn't make
like
sense. Are you a
you
god?
have you have ships that sail above the skies, like because for the reason um, I can't remember what it's called in Star Trek, but essentially like the underdeveloped planetary act is essentially saying that any developed uh, society does not interfere with planets that are
Yeah.
not developed enough yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same thing that Elena is bringing up on, well, we don't really
Yeah.
want to cure their problems because they may not have the technology for the new problems that arise.
Or even the understanding or the experience that goes with developing anything
Yeah.
to combat anything that comes back that's stronger than the thing that we just assisted
Yeah.
them
I
with.
mean, the Star Ocean series, I mean, the whole Star Ocean series, like every game addresses that concept. Star
Yeah.
Ocean seems like so heavily inspired by Star Trek that it's just basically Japanese Star Trek.
Yeah. Which in Star Trek is it the Prime Directive?
Yes.
Okay. Like that was kind of it was kind of bothering me there for a second. So I was like, I don't remember. I couldn't. I was thinking Prime Directive, but I was like, that seems a little too like with Star Ocean. It's the underdeveloped planetary act. It's wordy.
Underdeveloped Planetary Protection Pact.
Yeah. So
Something like that.
UP3. Um,
But yeah, so the Kings, he's getting better. He's chatting with Midas and Malkia. The party leaves them, so they can go get an info dump from Marielle. Ray's got a lot of questions
yeah.
for her, and she explains her side of the story, basically saying, "Hey, I
I
was
was
like,
not involved with that.
yeah, like I was the uh, sole voice of conscience on the Astoria. I don't know what happened with Captain Bennett. Something is going on with him." Trying to get the Duma, trying to get these Virians even. He's involved with them. I
Yeah.
basically said, why are we doing this? And they put me in the brig.
Yeah. Um, and
And
so
then
she,
and then
because
also
yeah,
revealing that, she is a Kenny, which whenever she said that, I was like, that name is familiar. And so, going back and looking, it's like, oh, yeah, there's like a Kenny, because she mentioned like her grandfather. I think
yeah,
I think Ray mentioned, oh yeah, you're the granddaughter of a hero. And then that made me
yeah.
think, okay, Kenny, that name's familiar. And going and looking, it's like, oh yeah, there's basically been a Kenny in every game, except for I think Star
Yeah.
Ocean 3 till the end of time.
Which is also my favorite one. But at least with Till the End of Time, it introduced uh, uh,
Welch,
Welch. So it didn't have one recurring character, but it gave the franchise another recurring character. So, um, but
yeah,
yeah, so
she
like
she is the granddaughter of Emerson T. Kenny, who they call a famous hero, and he's actually a character in Integrity and Faithlessness, the previous game.
which once we're done, you and I we've talked about it. Might as well check out that game after
Yeah,
we're
yeah,
done with the Divine Force.
that was one
Um,
that was one thing where it's like, okay, that's got me a little more interested to play the other games. You know, go
just to see
backwards
what
to play the ones I didn't play. Integrity and Faithlessness and The Last Hope, just to see, okay, the connecting threads between them.
yeah. Um, but yeah, so like with everything that has happened, um, you know, Raymond is also just very he doesn't know why they were targeted. Marielle, she it doesn't seem like she's lying about anything because like she's just been very just upfront. Like she contacted Ray, like she didn't need to contact Ray. She didn't need to be involved with uh, getting it, going back to Aster 4 to find out what happened. And so the
Yeah, and
fact
it
that
sounds like
she's
she even like basically pirated a ship to do so,
yeah,
which
she
kind of in it looked like in Ray's eyes gave him a little bit more respect for his like, okay, kudos.
so yeah, it's like okay, so uh, you're willing to do what it takes to get the job done. I,
Yeah.
I can respect that.
Yeah, she wanted to beam down, or she wanted to come here to apologize to Ray, but then also to find the black box of the Yeetus to be able to actually pin the issue on Bennett and say, hey, listen,
Yeah,
the crew of the Yeetus, they were not at fault. It was all Bennett. And then after all this stuff that happened just prior, also bring the Virians to justice too.
yeah, because at this point, you know, everything's pointing to the Virians as being the ones that violated the UP3.
Yes.
So
And I guess Bennett had worked with them or something. He knew who they were and he was trying to kill them, basically silence
yeah,
them.
and that's kind of where I stopped. Or the last time that I played was essentially after all that information dump, I think I did a couple of side quests. Oh, which reminds me, um,
Did you find the
I
worms?
I found the worms. Have you?
No, although I did get another quest. That's basically
Which
the
is
same sort
similar.
of thing. Like, I had this meal and then I got attacked by these worms. So,
Yeah.
what's the solution? What's the answer?
So, in Delric Village, it was correct, but there is a caveat with. Uh, so essentially, you go to Delric Village, you eat the curry, which I think is the last option when you're at the inn. You eat that. When you've got the food um, icon, just do not fight anything, but essentially you want to do not fast travel because if you fast travel, it doesn't work. You have to travel across. I think
Yeah, 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 just get on with it.
I can't remember what the. Essentially, you have to go through an entire area, and then as soon as you enter into the uh, lacrosse
Yeah, okay, so you just
region,
you eat in Delric, you don't fast travel, you just go to the place and they attack you.
so essentially you fast travel to the connecting point, and then you go through that
Wait,
entire area, and you
wait,
walk through.
wait, fast travel or don't fast travel?
Well, you can fast travel to not to the actual region. Like if you can fast travel to like the Weld, go through the Weld, and then walk. Like you can't fast
Basic,
travel.
basically, you just want the benefit of that meal still effective whenever you're going through the region in question.
Yeah, and almost
Okay,
as soon as you enter that area, like you take maybe I think I took like maybe 10 steps, and the worms appeared. So,
okay.
um, but like what I had done was like I had fast traveled to the region and it didn't work. I had fought all sorts of stuff in that area, it didn't work. I was like, okay, well, what if I try this? So I ate the food, went to an area, went to the Weld, just traversed through the Weld, entered into the region, and then after about 10 steps, it spawned the worms. So I imagine that other side quest is going to be
Yeah,
pretty much
the
the same
exact
thing.
same.
I'm hoping they don't rely too heavily on just repeating this type of side
Uh,
quest because
no, I mean I'm like 50% through the side quests, and this is only the second one I've got that's like that.
okay. Um, so yeah, that's but
Okay, well that's good news. I will go do
um,
that.
and man, that was such an easy fight because
Yeah, at this point I'm sure.
yeah, I just dashed and killed everything.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, essentially, I think so. That's where I'm at. Essentially, Marielle pleads her case, tells tells Ray everything that had transpired, and even down to there was a break in between the second and the third barrage of attacks. Like what happened there? And like she explains, well, that was when I was trying to stop them from attacking, or when I tried to prevent them from attacking your ship. Um, and then I was thrown into the brig, and they attacked again, and then your ship went down, and blah blah blah. Um, so like she just lays it all out on the table. Um, so uh,
Yeah, I think
that
Ray's still a little hesitant, but Leticia notes, basically, hey, it looks like the interests of all present are in alignment, so we ought to work together,
yeah,
and that kind of settles that.
very political. Yeah, classic Letitia. Just that's like, well, looks like we are ready to move forward then, right?
Yeah, yeah, and so going
Uh,
back to the king, they eavesdrop, they finish watching the conversation that he's having with Midas and Malkia, and the thing I like there is it seems like basically they have maybe not totally put water under the bridge, reunited, but at the very least, it's heartwarming to see the king and Midas kind of reconnect, and then Malkia
yeah,
kind of ribbing Midas. Never gets old, but
yeah,
and kind of putting the coda on this whole scene, this whole just mass of story that's happened. Everyone seems to think that the war is going to end tomorrow. Like, okay, I guess we're gonna finish the war now that we got the upper hand. And I have not progressed the story as also from this point, but it seems to me like even now it's like I don't think the war is just going to be over like that. Especially with now Marielle coming into the mix. I'm sure there's going to be some more stuff with like outer space folk going to be playing in. Like, okay, maybe the war will be over, but there's going to be some more stuff going on in the game.
Yeah, and I think, especially we've talked about it a lot now that essentially this planet is compromised. Everybody within the kingdom and the empire, they now know about all of this stuff beyond the stars.
Not everybody.
That there's entities and there's super powerful weaponry and stuff beyond the stars.
Yeah. But yeah, like you at this point, I think like the last 2 sessions I had, which really just like, actually no, yeah, like 3 hours worth of sessions. Since that story progression point, I'd just been doing side quests, cleaning stuff up, and I'd been revisiting towns, and I've encountered like half dozen to a dozen private actions. So
me too. I was
just gonna say, if you are not revisiting every town and speaking to every person, every party member at every spot, you may be missing a lot. Because I've been doing that to keep up with it, but it just seemed like at this point, like I had like 3 or 4 actual like cutscene styled private actions too.
Yeah, and so because I've tried to be very diligent about the private action stuff. And so after all this happens, like I too had a lot of private actions going on. So I was like, have I not been talking to them at the right times? Have I been missing opportunities? Like what happened?
You can kind of tell by the conversations they're having. I think in this case, a lot of it's just like, okay, a lot has happened. Here's a good like break in the story. Go revisit every town because you're going to have some different conversations in each place.
Yeah, and like there was a couple that I jotted down a couple of the just little tiny notes about the private actions. Like Ray is addicted to coffee. Like there was a private action that took place between him and Elena that he was just like, I gotta have it. I can't believe that there's no place on this planet that has coffee. I need it. And Elena's trying to calm him down and just like, once this is all settled and done with, I will make you the best cup of coffee you've ever had.
Did you have any private actions with her? Like, now, are you eating 3 meals a day? Are you changing your underwear? Like kind of babying him, mothering him?
No, but I did have a private action with her in regards to like what the EMP felt like.
Yeah.
And she references it as far as humans experiencing like PTSD symptoms. And she's like, I really don't want to talk about it, but I can make you feel what it felt like. And Ray's just like, no.
It'd be like an electric burst. I can knock you out and knock you unconscious.
Yeah, like I can do that right now. And Ray's just like, no, never mind. I'll never bring it up again. I'm sorry.
The one I noted, just because there were so many, they're all worthwhile, all interesting. But the one I noted was whenever I entered Delrec, basically just walking in, a cutscene private action started with Midas, Malkia, and Ray. And, Malkia asking, why have you been so cold to Leticia? Why are you acting this way to Leticia? And Midas, basically revealing like, hey, it's not that I dislike her. I dislike the concept. I dislike the royal family and all that. But I've been acting kind of cold to her just to prepare her for the realities of the people she's going to have to work with. In a sense, basically saying like, hey, I like her. I have nothing against her. I'm just being cold and kind of an ass to, just get her ready for the future, to help her. Yeah. It's like kind of like with him reconciling slightly with the king and some of his other private actions that have happened at this point. It's like, Midas, you're kind of a softie behind that cold, muscly exterior.
There's been a little bit of hinting at the fact that he really does care. He really does have, a soft heart. Um, he's got he puts on this facade of this tough character, but um, deep down he cares.
And so,
Um,
also among the stuff I've been doing with side quests, I finished all of Welch's side quests. So all of Welch's side quests to a degree. It seems like there's going to be some more once we uh, get into Vale Empire, continuing her storyline. But finished the side quest she had and unlocked all of the crafting options.
okay, I honestly haven't done much with her stuff. I still just have three things unlocked as far as crafting goes.
Yeah,
Um,
whenever I realized, I think I was missing like one. She was wanting a weapon, I think, for the fourth crafting item, and she was wanting like two of them or three of them. And I realized, well, I have one of them, so I was like, I'm just gonna be able to buy that someplace. So I just looked it up, and then whenever I got her next quest immediately afterwards, it's like, oh, I think that's just something else I can buy. So I just, for those last couple, I was just like, okay, where do I buy? I just looked it up online. Where do I buy this?
yeah. Um, Another, just kind of going in with the private actions and stuff. There was a conversation between Albert and Ray. I don't know, I don't know exactly how these private actions are laid out. I don't know like the numbering to them or really what necessarily triggers them. Um, but there was I think this was either the second or third private action in regards to Ray trying to figure out why Albert uses the chakram as a weapon,
Oh, yeah.
and essentially it ends up boiling down like Ray's was just like I'm just trying to understand because it's just such a strange weapon. It's just not it's not a traditional weapon. So I'm just trying to figure out why you use it. And like as it's happened, like while they're talking, Nina walks by, and she's like, "Oh hey, how's everything going, guys?" And then they both just kind of get fixated on the bell that she uses. And it's like, well, I guess as far as like strange and weird weapons go, how does she use that? So um, I am liking the private actions. They are nice to kind of help you know flesh out some more stuff as far as like the characters and getting to really know their personalities.
Yes, I
And
believe those are. I would assume they're tied to the different character endings at the end of the game, which I did see. I think there's going to be no worries about unlocking those. I think you can basically just improve the affinity between the characters by just giving them some items, and then right before the end and go beat the game to get their endings. So
yeah,
it's kind of like low pressure, low stakes. I had been, okay, I'm gonna like basically eat at the eat at the inn, get some food that's gonna improve everyone's affinity with me, and then at some point after reading that, it's like, okay, I'm still gonna do that stuff, and I'm still gonna go to every town like after like every story break and kind of check back in on things, see if I can have any more private actions, see if I can turn in any items to the merchants, see if I've got any new side quests, because I have found new side quests by going back to the villages. Um, but now it's like, okay, well, now that I know that I can just unlock that pretty easily at the end, I won't stress about that. Won't
yeah.
put too much emphasis on it other than what I'm doing currently.
Yeah, it's not like the like Elden Ring or anything where now granted with Elden Ring I guess you can still cheese it at the end to get all three endings, but
Yes.
um so but
Well, I think we are
you
caught up on
know
Star Ocean now.
I believe so. I think we're we're pretty close. I can't remember my overall hour count right now. Um, but I think that we're probably what
Yeah, I mean,
I think I
I'm 39 hours in.
that's
I think you're probably like 4 or 5 less than me.
yeah that's I was trying to kind of get a guesstimation together, but
Yeah, and
um,
according to how long to beat, the game is like 34 hours for main story to 60 hours for completionist. So we've probably only got like, well, actually, maybe we are going to get to the Vale Empire side of things, and it's going to like all get cleaned up pretty tidily. It's just going to be like, okay,
get
you've got like,
resolved and
yeah, you've got like 5 more hours of gameplay.
hmm. I mean,
No, it
with
doesn't seem that way. Especially like last night whenever I was playing, it's like okay, I've only done like 50% of the side quests, and I only have a few in the queue. And even if you look at the map, like it looks like there's enough space on the Vale Empire side of the map for a couple more towns and dungeons and stuff. I mean,
yeah,
I guess I've been playing it very slow. Like I said, going in between, like going back to every town during story beats. So I mean,
you gotta
I'd say
play it so
I probably have like another 20 hours left, 15 maybe.
yeah. Um, I mean, with how quickly a lot of the story elements have developed, I can see, you know, maybe 5 to 10 more hours. Um, I think we're getting pretty close because there so much stuff has been thrown at us, like so much stuff, and like the situation with the wedding, like how long has Ray even been crashed on the planet? Like I, I don't think they've given any like
Well,
timetable to it. The only thing that had a timetable, I think, was the wedding and just like that whole thing of like the 7 to 10 days.
yeah, the
Um,
wedding would say at least a week, and then you kind of backtrack from there. It took him what a day or so to get Elena back. You know, he's been
yeah.
there 3 weeks, let's say, two.
So and this war that just started is about to end. Um, so you know, I feel like there's a lot that they've crammed into. They could have stretched a few things out, but then I guess that there would be potential for a bunch of filler. But um, I'm still enjoying the game. Like it's definitely in the pretty much after getting Malekith, or not Malekith, uh, Malkia. Um,
Wrong game.
yeah, as soon as I said it, I was like, wait, that's not it. Um, After getting Malkia, it really, it's like, and now we go. Like it really didn't let up, and I think that's kind of how you and I both got a lot of time. And I guess in a way, like as the wedding was dying down, everything else was like some story stuff was starting to wind down. It's like, okay, now we're reaching that peaceful point again where it's okay. There's not much going on. I can stop here, and then I just haven't picked the game back up. Um, but yeah, while all that was like from getting to Nilbeth till breaking up the wedding, like so much stuff was thrown at us in that time frame.
Yeah, yeah, really fun, really good.
Um, and then outside of Star Ocean, I played a lot of Vampire Survivors because it was just easy to get to after packing everything up to get ready to move and then not end up moving. Um, I think I've reached 70 to 80 of the achievements in the game. Um, I've unlocked a lot of characters, a lot of stages, a lot of modes. Um, I think there's a handful, like maybe a couple weapons that I haven't figured out their evolutions, but there's also apparently a lot of other characters to unlock that also bring in new weapons that will then
Hmm.
add new things. So I'm I would I think I'm about halfway through the achievements, which is crazy to think. You know, 70 to 80 of the achievements, and I'm only about I feel 50% complete with them.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much to unlock and do in that game, so much to work towards.
Uh,
I booted it up for the first time in a while, like last night or the night before, and played that for like an hour or so. And yeah, it's just so good.
yeah, um, just so easy to just hop into and not have to really. You can just zone out to it. It's it's a lot like playing Geometry Wars or just any of the like twin stick shooters from like Housemarque. Um, just boot up the game and just kind of like it's a very engaged but also relaxing game. Um, so as far how much time have you put into the new Pokemon games?
Yeah, have not played a ton more of those. I guess I have probably played another 5 hours since the last time we talked about them, but um, I had focused more on getting Ys done, kind of going through the last.
Oh yeah,
I
that's
beat
right.
that in the time since we've talked about it last, and uh, I beat that. Basically, cleaned up the trophies I'm gonna clean up a day or two ago. So finally, it feels like I've kind of been playing that game half an hour at a time for the last couple weeks after beating it, or getting close to beating it. So finally, I feel like I can put that down and now focus back on 2 games plus Vampire Survivors. I can focus
Yeah,
on Star Ocean and Pokemon, and then Vampire Survivors in the background. So, I mean, I've got a lot to say about Ys. I've got a lot to say about Pokemon, but I'm just ready to hop off here and play a little bit
yeah.
more.
Real quick, with Ys, was it a good ending? Like, did it
Yeah,
was it a satisfying ending?
yeah. That game. That's one game where the story really captivated me. It took kind of what seemed like a predictable story at the very beginning, or just very commonplace, like the hero has amnesia story, and kind of turned it on its head. Very interesting through to the end.
So, I will definitely have to check it out because
Yeah, gameplay wise, that game is just awesome.
um,
Great action RPG.
but as usual with these shows, I go into them thinking, there's no way we're gonna get past like 30 minutes because I haven't done anything in the last week. But here we are, an hour and 11 minutes in. So, uh, we will be back with episode 22, I believe, of Just One More Podcast next week with more Star Ocean, possibly some Pokemon, and maybe some Vampire Survivors, and the telling of the conclusion of Ys. Uh, I am Jeff from Just One More Level,
And I'm John from MyBurningGames.com.
and we will see you all next week. So, see you, everybody.
Bye bye.